Hello, this is Brahim Selassie, the Orthodox Catholic One here on YouTube, and today's article is entitled Abba means father or my father, and not daddy, papa, or dad. I'll explain the origin of it at the end, but anyway, I'm going to provide several examples of evidence. First evidence is actually when Joseph addresses Pharaoh in the book of Genesis, verse 47, verse 1. The Hebrew text, I'll go to that later. It's anyway, the English text of it says, Then Joseph went in and told Pharaoh and said, My father and my brethren and the flocks, and he goes on talking about how his family is from where they're from and stuff like that. To Pharaoh. Anyway, the Hebrew text of what Joseph tells the Pharaoh concerning his dad and his brothers, it says right here, it says, saying, and he said, Avi ve'achi, achai. Anyway, Avi is the word for my father there. Anyway, we have an actual Aramaic translation of it, and here's what it says. This is the Onkelos Aramaic Translation. It's actually the Targum, I should say. Anyway, the Onkelos is the Aramaic, and here's what it reads, and it's actually using Hebrew font. It says, Vayamar Abba ve'achai. So anyway, the word there is Abba or Abba, and that's the word used. Now, if Abba means daddy, it would seem kind of ridiculous for Joseph, who is supposed to be the prime minister of Egypt, to go to his boss, the king of Egypt, Pharaoh, and say, my daddy and my brothers and their flock and their herds. I think he would get laughed at by Pharaoh and the rest of his colleagues. But anyway, it's also, others actually have as Ava, but the thing is, a lot of times the bait in Aramaic and Hebrew often are sort of transliterated as B's or V's, especially in the New Testament. For instance, Ravi means my great one, but in the Greek text it spells it with rho, beta, I think it's iota. But anyway, it's Ravi, and in and actually in Greek there is no B sound by letter itself. It's actually beta is pronounced Veda, and it's generally pronounced V's, and then you have a double letter MP or mupai for the B sound, but that's not actually used in Old Greek. But anyway, so it would be silly for Joseph to refer to his daddy to Pharaoh. It would be very embarrassing, and he'd granted Joseph probably didn't use either Abba or Avi when speaking to Pharaoh, because he was probably speaking Egyptian or the Coptic language. However, the Hebrew Bible and the Aramaic translation translate it with the ordinary word my father, Avi or Abba, and didn't. I mean, it would be absurd for them to think he was saying my daddy. Hey Pharaoh, my daddy's in trouble. Anyway, furthermore, we have the word Barabbas, the name Barabbas, or Barabbas, however you want to say it, used in the New Testament as a name which means son of daddy. No, it doesn't mean son of daddy. It means son of the father. Anyway, anyway, here's what it says. This is what Mark 15, verse 7, when it first mentions Barabbas. It says, there was a man named Barabbas who was imprisoned with the insurrectionists. That's what it says, and here's the Greek text of it right there. And it's one of the three, or I think it's 3 or 4 times that actually it's not one of those times technically that the word Abba is used in the New Testament. Though, I mean, it is, but not by itself. But anyway, here's the Aramaic translations. It splits it up into 2, Bar and then Abba. Bar and then Abba. And that's found in the Old Syriac and in the Peshitta text, the Sinaiticus of the Old Syriac, I should say. Anyway, we see the Aramaic texts for Abba and Ava have the same spelling as Genesis 47:1. Now this letters are that's the Aleph, the first letter, and then Beit, and then Aleph. So that's the Aramaic or Syriac. Then you have the Syriac written in Hebrew, which is spelled with the same letters, just using the Hebrew font, Aleph, Beit Aleph. So it's the same. Now here are two Protestant lexicons that actually explain the name Barabbas. Thayer says son of a father or master, the captive robber who the Jews begged Pilate to release instead of Christ. And then you have Strong's concordance, which says of Chaldee origin. Actually, they mean Aramaic. Chaldee is misleading because it actually means magic, and it's only referring to some of the Aramaic people. But anyway, it says son of Abba. Okay, so they interpret it as an actual name Abba, which wouldn't make sense as a person being named daddy. A parent wouldn't name their child daddy unless maybe they're Hispanic, in which case it would only be like a nickname, pet name. Anyway, and it also says Barabbas, an Israelite. Anyway, so it would be absurd for them to have that mean daddy as someone's actual name. Anyway, now let's keep going on. We see the first time that Abba actually appears in the Greek text. And here's what it says. Let's see. And he was saying, Abba, Father, all things are possible with you. Remove this cup from me, and yet not what I will, but what you will. And that's Mark 14, verse 36. Now we have the Aramaic text of this gospel. This is the Peshitta text. It says Abba right here. You have the same spelling, Aleph, Beit, Aleph. But then again, also after that, it says Avi. I think it's Avi, which means my father. So it says Father, my father. And here's the Dr. John Etheridge, English Peshitta text translation. And he said, Father, my father, thou canst do everything. And he goes on. That's quoting Jesus. And then you have the old Syriac translation, which doesn't actually use Abba. But it simply says, I think it's Avi. It says, and he said, my father, everything is in your hands. Anyway, that's the old Syriac Sinaiticus. Anyway, let's keep going on. I should also mention that in this same text of the old Syriac, the same Gospel of Mark, in the old Syriac Sinaiticus, that same manuscript, we see, actually, is it elsewhere? No, sorry, elsewhere in the Peshitta text, I should say, where it actually uses the word Abba in Mark 14:36. The Peshitta text actually in Mark 10 verse 29 uses the same exact spelling with the same exact vowels and everything in Mark 10:29. And here's one translation. This is Dr. John W. Etheridge, Peshitta's translation. It says, Yeshu responded and said, Amen, I say to you, there's no man who forsaketh his house, or his brethren, or his sisters, or father, or mother. So it would be absurd for Jesus to say there's no man who forsakes houses, or brethren, or sister, or daddy, or mommy, or wifey, or Billy, or what, I don't know. That wouldn't really flow so well. Wouldn't make so much sense for him to use it there. But anyway, that's what the Aramaic text says. And then here's the old Syriac, has verses with the same spelling in Mark 13 verse 12. We're talking, and here's the word. You have the letter before it, which signifies also or and. Anyway, here's what the old Syriac translation of this says. This is brought to you by I forget his name, Bosai, but he's from Northern California. He lives in San Diego now. He converted to Catholicism from the Church of the East, or whatever you call it now. Anyway, and the translation says, for a brother will betray his brother to death, and a father, and the word there is used is Abba, his son and his children will rise up against their parents and kill them. So anyway, that's an actual scholar, a man who actually speaks the language and writes the language and reads the language, and even had his own translation. Anyway, next up, going on, we have now for reference other times the word Abba appears in the Greek New Testament untranslated. We have Romans 8:15. It's in red right here. Abba o Patri. It says, for you have not received a spirit of slavery leading to fear again, but you have received a spirit of adoption as sons, by which we cry, Abba, Father. Then we have Galatians 4:6. This is because you are sons, God has sent you forth has sent forth the Spirit of His Son in our hearts, crying, Abba, Father. And that's Galatians 4:6. Anyway, to make this point even stronger, here's what some lexicons or concordances and whatnot say. Here's Thayer's. This is Abba equals Father. Father, customary title used in God in prayer whenever it occurs in the New Testament, has the Greek interpretation joined to it. This is apparently to be explained by the fact that the Chaldee Abba, though frequently used in prayer, gradually acquired the nature of a sacred proper name, to which the Greek-speaking Jews added the name for their own tongue. And then Strong's of Chaldee origin, Father as evocative, Abba. And then we have the Lud Nida, which simply says Father, a title for God. Now we have the Hebrew Union a lexicon, college lexicon. I'm not sure exactly what lexicon this is, but anyway, it lists it. Here's one explanation. It says of humans, of seniors, chiefs, masters, Heavenly Father, and then ancestor. Anyway, for Abba specifically, it says my father, vocative, which is how is it's used even in Genesis 47 verse 1 in the Targum. But anyway, you can read the rest of those. And anyway, notice that all it says, it's just a way of saying father, biological or not, and makes no mention whatsoever of being a way for a small child to say daddy. Yet sites like Got Questions ignorantly spread this fact around. However, for some reason this got left out. The blame for this innovation is typically placed on a man named Jeremias Joachim. Actually, it's in German. It's probably Jeremias Joachim. Anyway, he claimed he was a 20th century Lutheran scholar in dealing with texts in Hebrew, or I guess Talmudic. But anyway, he spread around in 1971. He had a book called, actually I might have it somewhere around here. But anyway, he pretty much wrote in his work that it was like baby talk. And anyway, people bought into it. He didn't explicitly say it means daddy, but he gave that strong impression. And everybody fell for it. Most ministers, Bible school teachers fell for it. Anyway, this is Brahim Selassie, the Orthodox Catholic one.